So, and I guess we'll start with introductions. So those of you who took course Management 301 with me, you know me. Those of you who took the course with either Karen or some other professors who may not know me, my name is Vas Taras. I'm one of the professors for international business here. And I also happen to be the one who annoys students with all those emails related to, weekly reminders and surveys. So X-Culture project. Karen has been teaching the course for a long time, but starting in the fall, she will be even closer involved with the project. So I guess many of those annoying emails will be going from her now. But and Lisa, since I started talking about the administrative team, the Italy symposium, she's been preparing, working very actively on the administrative side. So much of the correspondence probably went through her. So if you had to send an email to global@xculture.org, probably it was Lisa who answered it. And just to give you a little background about myself, I'm originally from Ukraine, have lived in many countries before we ended up here. And so it's been 10 years here in Greensboro now. And those two kids are my kids. They're going to Italy as well. If you know, or if you don't, we had a test drive of a children's track. So we had a total of 99 kids, ages 9 to 17. And so these two participated as students, and then several of them will be going to the symposium. Again, we'll want to test and see how it goes for the kids, and if it goes well, maybe we'll learn something that will lead to recruitment opportunities for Brian Business School. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's about me. So I don't know who goes next. Maybe let's go this way, and then once we get to Heidi, she will do her introduction.
What do you have to say about yourself?
I don't know, student or
student here at UNCG, and my favorite color is orange.
Okay. Very informative. Thank you so much. Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Colin. I'm studying business information systems.
Okay, nice to meet you, Colin.
Karen Linden.
Yes.
I'm Joe Hurst. I'm a student at Rolling Conveyors, double majoring in business and marketing, and looking forward to the trip and the challenge.
And I would like to point out one thing here. So Joe has been helping us with some things proactively, like for example, in his signature on the email, he put the X-Culture certificate. And then I know some students ask me if it's possible to add the X-Culture endorsement or something on LinkedIn, like there is a way, and just said, oh, let me do some research, maybe I'll find out what to do about it. And so, yeah, that's something we need because there are so many different ideas floating around and we just don't have the time to act on all of them. So if you see something that can be improved, either a problem or maybe a way to just simply improve it, please be proactive like Joe, because we do need your help. So.
My name is Henry Bohr, and I am a distance learner. I travel 2 hours up here to go to UNCG, and I'm majoring in business administration.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Nina Dion, and I'm a student at UNCG, and I'm originally from Senegal, West Africa. And my major is accounting.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Maxine Terrace, and I just graduated middle school.
Okay. All right.
My name is Sophia Terrace, and I do gymnastics.
All right.
Hey, I'm everybody. I'm also a student who junior here in the Bryan School of Business.
Lisa McLaughlin. I'm the administrative assistant in the Bryan School here in this department, and then working with Lavani closely.
And Lisa has been involved in X-Culture for many years, attended the meeting in Miami. Any other ones, I think?
Just Miami.
Yeah, for now, yeah, but it was a very similar format, so Lisa's helping a lot, so definitely a very important person in our team. And so is Doug.
I'm Doug McLaughlin, the other half of Lisa, and I actually work in industry. I work with Yamarco in the engineering department, and I will be the photographer for the symposium.
Again, as a background information, so last year we hired is a strong word, but I made arrangements with 2 students who would be doing the photography. Both of them had big cameras and said, oh, sure, yeah, yes, I will do it. And then for the 3rd student, I brought my own camera and a whole bag of equipment, like, the lights and microphones and stuff like that. And then none of the 3 did anything. So 2 of them did something, but they sent me the pictures like half a year after the event. By that time, I didn't need them. And one messed up with the equipment. They didn't connect the microphone, and all the interviews she took, the sound was bad. And so, but luckily for us, there was this man here at the conference who just, like one of the photographers literally was always in your face. Like people literally, when he would approach, can I use
Oh,
it?
sure.
People would do like this because he was so invasive. So, and Doug somehow he was sort of invisible, but at the end of the day, he would always share like 100 excellent, like, professional grade photos. And so I know that's his hobby and semi-profession. So, but yeah, everybody was so impressed that this time when we started talking about photography, I told Elena right away, so please do talk to Doug. And she's like, oh, already did, so all arranged. So, yeah.
So this is your book from last year. If you want to look at it after.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and our guest here today.
All right. Hello, I'm Heidi Bretz. I am the Assistant Director for Study Abroad and Exchanges in the International Program Center at UNCG. If you've studied abroad, you've probably seen me kind of around. So I'm just here to talk a little bit about kind of health and safety things and kind of the university perspective on those before you go abroad. Just some gentle reminders while you're off having this wonderful experience in Italy. I'm very excited for all of you. So first off, just to kind of get a feel, who's traveled before? Okay. So we have few people who it's the first time. Awesome. Have you been on planes before?
Yes.
Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, and everyone has a passport, right?
Yes.
So it's the most important. And it's good for at least 6 months.
Yes.
Okay.
So
If you're
meaning
not
that you
vigorously
have-
nodding, you need to check.
Yeah. So good at least 6 months, meaning that with the trip, you will be returning back at least 6 months before the expiration of the passport. Right?
So good through the end of the year.
Yeah. Because for Sophia, we had to literally replace it a few months ago. I
Mm-hmm.
just discovered that it would expire sometime in I think July or something. So we had to literally, and I forgot about that. So.
Yeah.
So
go home, check your passport, just to make sure, because that'd be the worst thing to try and get on the plane and they don't let you off. Not good. And I'm thinking that most of you are from the US, but if you're not, then you'll want to check in and make sure there are no extra visa requirements you need to be doing. Just because again, that's not something you want to get caught at with the border with needing to get extra paperwork. So of those of you who've traveled, have you been to Italy before? Okay. So a little bit of experience here. So if you have questions, we have 2 experts in the room. So basically, kind of from a UNCG standpoint, Dr. Taras said that we enrolled you in insurance, and we have, and that insurance will cover you for the duration of your time abroad. I actually brought your cards here, so I'll pass this out in a minute. But that insurance is important because, like you said, I mean, you go overseas, you trip, you sprain an ankle, you get sick, you, I don't know, fall off leaning tower Pisa, weird things like that will happen.
Lars Tibbs, who's been helping us as a student assistant to the project, went to Spain for an exchange program, came back 2 weeks ago. Had to undergo the appendicitis surgery. So who would have thought? She's been there, had been there for like 3 weeks, and it just happened to happen at that time. So
well, I'm glad to hear she's better.
Yeah, she's back, she's fine. So, but yes, that was quite an adventure.
Yeah, but for things like that, like you never know when something's going to come up, a health problem or an issue. So that insurance does cover kind of general emergency and kind of illness-related visits to the doctor. It also covers mental health insurance. So if you need some extra support while you're abroad, prescriptions, that sort of thing, it does cover all of that, all the way up to medical and political evacuation. So in case Italy just decides to erupt in conflict, we'll be able to get you out there as well. And I have those cards for you. And I guess in terms of other things to keep in mind when it comes to your health overseas, if you do have prescription medications, make sure they're in your personal item. And so that keeps them close to you. So that way, if your carry-on needs to be checked or your checked luggage gets lost, you're not without your prescriptions.
Also make sure that it's in your prescription bottle.
With your name on it.
And I think now you have to take it out when you're going through the screening, along with the shampoos.
I would.
Right.
Yeah, especially if it's a liquid.
Right.
If it's a pill form, definitely have it in the prescription bottle because you don't want to go through customs with random baggies of unlabeled pills. That usually doesn't go over too well. So having that, and then if you want to be super safe or you have something that you like, it's really important for you to have, a copy of your prescription is always a good idea to have with you, just in case it gets lost, misplaced, falls down the sink, whatever it would do. And this insurance does cover prescription refills. So if you do find yourself in need of a refill, they should be able to help you out. If you take any type of psychoactive substances like anti-anxiety medication, antidepressants, ADHD medication, opioids, you're going to want to call this insurance before you leave, just to check with them to make sure there's no additional paperwork you need to do to take your medicines with you overseas, because some of those drugs can be a little bit more strictly regulated in other countries. So I guess we can go ahead and pass these out. I'm not sure who's here. Do you know everybody's
You
names?
can maybe take this, the stack and
Okay.
distribute,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So if you want to just take one and
In
pass
fact,
it
it may be
around.
best to give them to Lisa, and then whoever's here can pick up their copy on the way out, but then, if anyone's not here, you can always stop by, Brian 366, pick up your copy, or get it,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
There's
we'll scan
actually
it.
an email.
Okay.
So you should have received an email. It probably went to your spam because it usually does, but it says GeoBlue, you've been enrolled, now you need to register. So I would ask that you go in and create an account. And that's helpful because then you can download the app on your phone. You can plug in your destination, see if there are any like air quality or water quality concerns while you're there, if the traffic is bad, stuff like that. And you'll actually be able to make doctor's appointments right from your app on your phone. And if you do it 24 to 48 hours in advance, usually there's no cost at the door. And if there is any cost associated with any medical care that you receive, they will reimburse you fairly quickly. They're really good about that. And they're good about getting you connected to places in case you need to have your appendix out in Italy, which hopefully you don't.
And Heidi, one question, so we
Yeah.
have those for students, does it also include Karen, Lisa, and me? Or
It sure can. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I will make a note to add you to the insurance as well.
Would be nice.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Doug, if
Yeah, if that works. I mean, I don't know. Just employees here.
So we typically
Students and
do
employees.
employees and like people who are associated with the program. So anytime any person would be considered a program director.
That doesn't have-
Okay,
Well, at
but I
least
think
some
you
of us
can add
have
a
a-
spouse.
Yeah.
So I'll double check on that.
these for those who have the university, either employee or
Mhm.
student ID perhaps.
Yeah.
So, but it would be nice, Doug is part of the team, so if there is a way,
Right.
great. If, not,
Okay. Yeah, and if I could just get an email with names and
Mhm.
birthdays, then I
There
can
you go, send
sign
those.
you right up. Yeah. So that's really great. And then in terms of the insurance, and you have that, and you can always either call the insurance, they're available 24/7 if you have questions or need a quick triage or want to talk to somebody about your healthcare. Another resource that's always available, even when you're overseas, is me, basically. So right now, I have my phone out because I am on the police emergency call list. So if you get lost and can remember no other number in the world except the UNCG police line, you can call them and they'll call and wake me up. So if something desperate happens, like just let me know. And we're a resource for you as well.
Again, it happens all the time. We just were at the Agricultural Research Hackathon in Wisconsin, and one of our colleagues was flying from France. And so he was flying into Minneapolis, and then we arranged for a shuttle for him to come to the campus. But turns out the shuttle, you have to change it in Rochester or something like that. And
Yep.
so he was late at night, and so he was taking the last shuttle, and because he was the only passenger on the shuttle, they decided to cancel the second part of the shuttle. And so he basically found himself at 1 a.m. in Rochester. And so he calls us, and I say, well, just take an Uber, and we'll pay for your Uber. And so he takes an Uber, comes to campus. We're staying in the dormitory, but I forgot that my phone goes to sleep mode after midnight, and so I cannot. And so I say, when you come, you just call me, and I'll walk you to the dormitory because it's a big campus. And so he calls, and my phone, diligently doesn't read me out. And yeah, so then he calls campus police, and they say, we don't know what you're talking about, but let's check all the dormitories. And eventually they found us. So but he spent like an hour and a half trying just to navigate the campus. So it's sometimes, who knows, given that you will be flying probably to other cities anyway. And then getting to Macerata, so who knows.
Yeah. And one other thing with the insurance is if you are going to be traveling before or after the conference and you want to go to Spain or somewhere else, you can opt to extend that insurance, and I'll send around instructions that tell you how to do that. And it's like $1.42 a day, so it's really less than a cup of coffee to have insurance for the whole time you're abroad, and that's up to 30 days before or after as well. And then I did have some other forms that I did want to hand out, just kind of health and safety, again, emergency contact forms. And these are just kind of in case that there's something that goes wrong. For example, you need to have your appendix out and we need to contact someone on your behalf. This is what we use to reference. It's also a good place where you can list any allergies you have, any medications you're on, And really the only reason we would ever reference these would be if you were unresponsive and we needed to get you medical attention, really. But we do encourage you, of course, to disclose any allergies to your faculty and your program directors, because you don't want to be on a beach when you tell your director that you're allergic to sand, like one of our students did last summer. Or wait until you're sitting down to a full meal of pasta and tell someone that you're sensitive to gluten. So those are the kinds of things you're going to want to share. And of course, anything that I'm sure your program directors can do to help, or we can do to help, like we're more than happy to communicate about that. And then there's also some information about the student code of conduct. So you all know you're subject to the UNCG code of conduct here on campus. That does extend internationally. As long as you're a student at UNCG, you're subject to that UNCG code of conduct. So please don't throw chairs through windows, break things, set things on fire, punch people. Just don't do any of that. Be your best selves while you're overseas. And so we can kind of help you if you have any questions on that. In terms of kind of other things that we do have policies on, if anyone is under 21, you are allowed to drink while you're overseas as long as you're of age in the country in which you're drinking. So probably not you two. But you are.
It is important because one of the client companies is a winery. So there will be some alcohol, at least as far as tasting the product. I mean, it's a business necessity.
Right.
So yes, we want to check the age, and I'm not sure what it is in Italy. So I'm sure you two are definitely too young.
Yeah, I think it's probably 16 or 18. Sometimes it depends on whether or not it's wine and beer or hard liquor. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but if you're over 18, you're allowed to drink over there. That being said, please be responsible adults. You're on a business program, and you will be exposed to different kinds of products, different wines, different liquors, and you may want to try some of those, and that's completely your prerogative to do so. But please make sure that you're never out drinking alone. Don't stay out like till 3 a.m. by yourself. Make sure that you're watching your drinks, watching each other, kind of the general things. If you want to do it in New York, don't do it in Italy.
To that, I guess maybe a good time now to say, so when we were in Miami, we deliberately packed the program so much that students literally were there like for 5-6 days. You could hear the ocean, but they literally didn't have the time to put their feet in the water. And that was sort of intentional. So then, when you have 150 young people from all around the world, hormones and excitement can lead to all kinds of, wrong things. And so nothing happened, and I'm not sure if that's because the program was so busy or something, but then people did complain. They said it was a wonderful, wonderful event. The only thing we wish we had some free time because we literally didn't have time for anything else. And so this time we decided to free up, I think it's 2 evenings, where you will have free time and you can either stay and study or prepare your presentation or can actually do something. So the way we chose the city this time is that it's a couple of hours from from Rome, a couple of hours from Venice, and about like 40 minutes from the Mediterranean Sea. But it's not, so nothing's within walking distance, but everything's within very short distance if you want to add a day or two before or after. So this way you can go to all those exciting places, but at the same time, hopefully far enough for you to sneak out during the, your several 3 hours and do something crazy. So, but then still it's a small, nice, charming town, but I suppose, people still can go and maybe get drunk. And I strongly advise you not to do it, not only because it's just bad and not healthy, but also maybe that you will have an intensive program and probably will have a company visit or an interview or a competition or a webinar, seminar or a presentation. And I guess you will not get your best if you spend the night drinking and tasting every possible Italian wine. So you will have some free time, but please take it serious and responsible.
And we're not saying like you'll get in trouble for drinking. I mean, you will be of legal age. It's just, and if you do get drunk and like throw a chair through a window, that's going to be a problem. Likewise, try not to get arrested. It's really, we can't really help you. The embassy can't really help you. Your program directors can't really help. Likewise, please don't do drugs. Make good decisions, and just make sure that you're always watching out for each other as well. Especially, and tell someone if you're going out, like for instance, to Rome or to Venice, and to when to expect you back. So that way, if anything does go wrong, like you're calling somebody's cell phone and they're not picking up, that people will know kind of when to start being worried and when they should just kind of let you go do your own thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with those forms, that's something they need to fill out now?
Yeah. Well, so I just need these before you take off.
Okay.
So
We
if
can-
you
we
have
can
another.
distribute them, and as we talk about other things, you can slowly fill them out, and then
Yeah.
more time is needed, you can do it right after.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, a few comments that I would like to make, just general stuff. Frequently asked questions, and then maybe whatever questions aren't answered. Clothing, dress code. For the events, normally we try to dress a little bit more up, so that would be too relaxed, but probably that would be acceptable. But most people, there will be about half of the students will be wearing, suits and ties even, and then there will be most like khakis and maybe shorts, and then there will be always one or two students who will literally be very, very casual. All of those are fine. The only reason I would recommend that you're a little overdressed and underdressed is first because we're going to be in Europe, especially in Italy. They tend to be a little bit more conservative. And second, there will be ample opportunities to meet potential future employers, partners, and so you always want to make a good impression. So in Miami, in DC, pretty much all the meetings where we had, so there were at least some contacts and some people got job offers. So especially if that is on your sort of agenda. I cannot promise that you will get one, but there may be some opportunities to make a good impression, and so you don't want to miss it. Second,
And also many cathedrals will not allow you to be in the short pants.
right. So yeah, with opera, again, that's something I guess I've been too long in North America, so it didn't even occur to me that you have to sort of dress up for the opera. And so Ernesto pointed out a few times that most people will be basically dressed like people who go to the Oscars, right? So the women will be in evening dresses, men will be like literally tacks and bow ties, or at least something serious. So I don't think we need to go that far, but at least have a shirt and pants on, and so it has to be a little bit more formal than a rodeo here or something of that kind. So that's as far as the clothing. And then obviously we will have some, you will have some free time, and you probably will have some time before and after. My understanding is it's very hot there, so it's come out like here. So for everything else, have something like t-shirt and shorts, and I guess. So, then in terms of what can go wrong, I don't think we've had any serious problems, but there was, for example, one seemingly innocent incident, but it was sort of almost a big deal at one of the meetings. So it was summer, hot, and students had a pool party, and one student, I'm not sure if he was photographing or videotaping or something, but he decided to take some underwater pictures, and since there were a lot of kind of bodies in bikinis there, so some people didn't feel comfortable, and so when he was sort of confronted about that, he said, "Oh, it didn't even occur to me that it could be a problem." But turns out, to some it could. So it's always, if you're not sure, better not to do anything of that kind. Same thing with alcohol and whatever other substances people may be using. I'm not sure there is anything else, Lisa. Am I forgetting? Oh, one thing that I would strongly recommend that you do, it's a constant, always a problem, battery packs for your phones. So when you are not in a good Wi-Fi or cell phone area, your battery drains very quickly. And then plus, since you're not at the computer, you will be checking the phone frequently. So no matter what phone you have, it will not last a whole day. Like even if you have a brand new, whatever the latest, it will not last a whole day. So I strongly recommend to buy an additional one or even a couple of battery packs. You can buy one that will be good enough for one charge for like $6, $7. If you want to spend $20, $30, you can get like 10,000 milli whatever hours, and that one will allow you to recharge the phone several times.
Because the other things that you're talking about, batteries and charging things, not all European hotels are this way, but a lot of European hotels are such that when you leave the room, the way you do your key is you put your key in this little thing that turns on the electricity for the room.
Right.
So when you leave the room, you have to take that key out, and all the electricity in the room turns off. So you can't leave anything in the room oftentimes to charge.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the dorms will be.
Yeah, so charging maybe. Well, first of all, that the Europeans use a different standard, outlet. Again, you don't have to buy a big thing. You can buy for like literally 50 cents. There's a little adapter that you attach so it gets in the power outlet. It literally it will cost less than $1. Most of your phones and laptops, they can work in 220. They have a different current But the actual adapter may be necessary. One of the problems, by the way, I ran into, I remember it was, I think, in Dubai. Again, so my phone on standby usually lasts for a long time. But because you don't have at least my phone wouldn't find a network, it was constantly searching for the network, and the battery died during the night. And so it was fully charged, and I didn't even, didn't even occur to me that it can die during the night, but my alarm was on the phone. And so all of a sudden it didn't wake me up next morning for my presentation. And so if it was not for just, me just waking by accident, and, I still made it a little bit late, but, sometimes that can happen. So always important. Again, I'm not sure about your phones. Phones also it is a problem. So those of you who will be renting cars especially, but also if you're planning to do some, trip over, hiking or walking around the town, it's always good to have the GPS. And so chances are, if your phone is like mine, it will probably not work overseas. You probably will not have the data. So your GPS you will catch the signal, so you will know your GPS location, but it will not have the map, so it will be basically useless. So one thing you can do to prevent that problem is you can download the whole map of Italy. So it's going to be about 1 gigabyte. Google Maps allows you to download maps, and then there are some other apps that can do it. So this way you at least will be able to navigate if you need to drive or go somewhere. It will not give you the traffic updates live, but at least it will be it will allow you to walk around. Some phones, if you are on a kind of carrier here, chances are it will not take a different SIM card. Like normally you can buy their SIM card for like $10, and it will last you for for 10 gigabytes and whatever time you need. But I know most American phones, we are like basically in the last century when it comes to cell phones, and so our phones usually don't work overseas. So again, one of the solutions is you can either buy a very cheap phone just for the connection and then buy a SIM card, or you can buy one of those mobile routers. Again, you can get one for like $20. It takes a SIM card, you will have the data plan, and then you connect your phone to that thing. So at least you can use Skype and Viber, and then if you allow, if your phone allows to do voice over the internet protocol, like Mike can do it, so then it's an option for you. I think we'll have Wi-Fi pretty much all around the campus, so from that perspective, it should be fine. But once in the city, I'm not sure if it will be free. So I know I will be driving, so for me, it's an issue.
And if you
check your carrier to see, even if your phone would work in Italy, you might need to have your carrier turn it on to function overseas.
Yeah.
And it's really important. I'm sorry.
No.
It's really important to make sure that you have at least one other way to contact people other than Wi-Fi, because you will have Wi-Fi in most places you'll go, but if you're in the middle of the countryside lost, you're going to want some way to contact people. So either getting a plan through your carrier, or even just going to Harris Teeter or CVS and just getting like a literal like phone card, just having something that if you need to, you can make an emergency phone call. And some of those you do have to activate before you leave the country, so just make sure you're making structure and stuff like that.
And cell phones are much, much cheaper in Europe than they are here. Like literally for $10, you can have almost unlimited everything for the duration of your stay. It's just the phone that may work with. Your phone may not work with it. So just because we have still the monopolies here, essentially. So.
Can I mention one thing about the current that we were talking about? I don't know how many of you use hair dryers, hair tools, trimmers, things like that. Leave it at home, I would say, or buy one that's especially for travel. Because if you plug an American hairdryer into an Italian outlet, it could spark, it could burst into flames, it could take out the power in the whole hotel that you're in. Like all sorts of stuff could go wrong, and you just don't want to deal with that. So get one that's travel, so it can be switched to 220, or just buy one when you get there and share.
Yeah, I guess those are the important things. I'm not sure what else. Another issue that Will keeps asking, so travel before and after. And to my knowledge, they have started making or made some arrangements with local companies, so there will be ways to have some sort of not semi-organized, but organized but optional trips before and after. I don't know exactly. I was traveling myself, so I'm not sure if they set up a way to sign up. But I know that they've been talking to local tour agencies, and so there will be hopefully ways to do those tours on buses. Alternatively, I checked an Uber to Rome will cost about $80–90, and so if it's for students, it may well be worth it to just going as a group, either splitting the cost of a cab or taking the shuttle together and then just going to different places.
Do they have Uber in Rome?
Yeah, it seems to work.
They do not in Florence. The cab company union will not allow Uber in
I think you have it wrong, but not Montana.
What I did is I went to Uber to check the price, and I literally put campus to, I think I put downtown Rome, and it gave me an estimated price. So I assume, but unless it just plugs in the kilometers and gives you the price without checking if it actually works. So, but I'm sure there will be some other, rides, and they apparently have all those trains and buses that are, very reliable and always available.
The other thing is, if you plan on driving in Italy, place like Macerata might be okay. If you go into the larger cities like Rome, Florence, I don't recommend driving there. I mean, it is, they go by different rules. When I say different rules, I'm talking about, cultural things about how you drive, not just the horrible traffic itself, but how he goes first versus, okay, I need to wait here, or hey, I can go. How close they drive to each other. Motorbikes, motorbikes seem to rule the road. You'll have this much space between the car on the left and the car on the right, and here come a motor scooter just zoom right up in between you. And so, you are not used to watching for things like that. And so those kind of things could very easily ruin your trip to have something like that. Be involved with an accident like that. But if you do decide, it's probably a good idea to get an international driver's license and just go online to see how to get that. You have to get that here. You cannot get that once you've left the country.
I'm going to say one other thing just about cars and motorcycles and walking around. Like, even if you're not going to drive, like, it sounds elementary, but please look both ways before you cross the street. That's one of the biggest ways that students get hurt abroad, is not knowing those things, like where, oh, I'm looking across the street, I think it's okay to go, and then a motorcycle comes and clips you, and then you're in the hospital. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those types of things. And also, wear good shoes. I know that's something that seems, again, pretty elementary, but I cannot tell you how many students went to Italy last year and got infected blisters on their feet. Because you're going to be walking, even in the conference, you're probably walking 5 miles a day, just up on your feet, running around. And if you go any type of sightseeing, you're going to be walking 8 to 10 miles easy every day. So make sure your shoes are good. I know for some places you will need more professional shoes, but having professional shoes that are comfortable is going to be a real lifesaver. And make sure you're wearing closed-toed shoes in Rome, because there's lots of cobblestones so you can stub your toes on. Trust me, I've done it.
Questions or comments? We have one student who came a little later, so would you like to introduce yourself? I'll send you the recording so you can see the introductions of the other people, but so we know who you are. Yeah, just your name and yeah.
I'm Alex Toledo. I just finished my freshman year, and I had Mr. Carlos for my first semester here. So it's pretty interesting.
All right. Well, very nice to see you, to meet you. All right. Yes.
So I missed the webinar for Eurosol, and everyone in my team did miss it, and the recording.
Yes. So for some reason, I don't know, the file did save, but it wouldn't open, and so we cannot do anything about it. So I'm not sure. Maybe we'll ask them to do another one, or at least have like some sort of a summary of the key points. But yes, so that one was recorded, but for some reason the file was corrupted.
Okay.
So I'll think about that again. Maybe we'll either do another one or at least have a detailed summary. But most of the things they told were basically what you see in the description in the challenge instructions. So they make soles, they work with all kinds of companies, and the big challenge they have is sort of what do we do next? So because apparently the competition is on the price, and they are working on very, very small margins. So they're just seeking their help with ideas for how to go from there, even though they're one of the major manufacturers of soles. So.
I was also wondering if there's like a contact at Eurosol that we possibly can have access to.
Yeah. Again, I think, if it's not in the challenge, I definitely have that. So maybe if you can send me an email as a reminder, so I'll definitely share the information. The way it normally works with these challenges, and that's not good, but it's usually going like this. So students sort of do a little thinking about it, do a little preparation, but the real action doesn't start until they meet wherever they meet. And then it's very, very intensive. As a result, almost no sleep because during the day you have your own program and then you want to have some fun and then you do the preparation. And so in most cases, it's always sort of last minute preparation. But then in the end, when they show up on that stage, they usually do a very good job. So I'm sure you'll be fine too, but the more preparation you will do beforehand, the less work it will be for you, or the more ahead you will be of the other teams on the side. So if you don't win, it's not a big problem, but again, it's a good opportunity to learn something new. So the real action really starts after you have the company visit and when you've seen it for yourself and ask the questions. And so that's when it becomes, like really, really interesting and engaging. So yeah, try to prepare as much as possible, but even if you show up unprepared, I suppose it's not the end of the world. It's bad, but you will still find ways to do it. We're planning to do, by the way, additional webinars. The coaches are planning to do additional webinars this week, next week. You will be allowed to prepare a one-page handout. And so we have some copies of good handouts from the past and some bad handouts. Like, for example, if it's a handout, just basically plain text, nobody will have time to read it. If it's more infographics, it's nice and engaging. Unfortunately, and that's the truth not only for the symposium, it's always the case. Unfortunately, it's not so much about the ideas, it's more about presentation. I still remember, for example, there was one team that won 2 years ago. It was in Georgia, I believe. There was this one girl from Elon University. I don't remember what she said, and I don't even think I knew what she said, but when she was talking, she went up and she was like, la 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 la, like, like Oprah, and everybody was like, and they got it first place. And I don't even think people knew what she actually said. But the reason for that is because all the other teams did presentations like that. So they kind of come up to the stage and say, all right, our team is number 12, and this is, this is John, and this is Karen. And so we looked at this, and then, here is a slide. And John will talk about it, and then thank you so much. And so, when you have so many of those presentations back to back for the CEOs, to watch, at some point you kind of sort of almost stop, paying attention. And you either have to have a super brilliant idea, or as I said, you have to do something, to catch their attention. And so that one pager is your opportunity, and then the way you behave on the stage is your next opportunity to be heard. Just same thing, like when you watch anything from the Shark Tank to, when you're trying to sell something, form usually matters at least as much as the idea itself, and sometimes even more. Especially when you have either a stack of reports or 20 teams presenting back to back.
And this might be a little out of my wheelhouse, but I was going to say one of the cool free tools that I found kind of about infographics that I like to use for my work is called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. I don't know if you've heard that or recommended it to others.
It may actually be a good idea. Canva also, when you go to all those like Slido and things like that, so instead of PowerPoint, not a big difference, but once it looks more like animation rather than like slideshow, people wake up because everybody now is used to PowerPoint is a wonderful program. The problem is that we'll be using it for 20 years, and so it's very standard. So if you can use one of those things, it's definitely a good idea.
C-A-N-V-A.
C-A-N-V-A.com.
Yes,
and it's free.
Yeah, there are a bunch of options. You can watch a presentation. So the best presentation in all the years I've seen in Xculture was actually done by Sophia's team. We have it somewhere on the website. The kids were presenting. So the kids were in the competition, just like you guys, and they had a client called Finnish Schools International, and they asked for ideas for a school of your dreams. If you had to design a school of your dreams, how would you design it? And then there were several teams presenting, and everybody was saying, oh, we would, abolish the homework, and, we would make it experiential, the usual stuff. And then these kids, what they did, and I don't know who actually did the graphics, but they did almost like a cartoon, and you could tell that it was drawn, by kids. But the way they did it as a dialogue. So instead of saying, we recommend that you abolish homework and things like that, they said something like, hey, my name is, what was her name? Aelita. Yeah, but they made up names. So two women meet and they say, hey, what's up? Oh, everything's fine. How's your kid doing? Oh, she's doing fine. Is he going to new school? Yes, he's going to new school. So do you like that school? I don't know. It's, like regular school. Hey, did you hear about that Finnish Schools International? They're opening in your, San Francisco Bay Area. She says, no, I haven't. What about them? Oh, and then she describes everything that they proposed. Like, for example, instead of homework, they actually do more experiential stuff. Oh, really? Does it work? It actually seems to work. We tested it in different countries. It works fine. And so they do it as a dialogue. And so the CEO looks at that and says, literally, just give me the recording. That's the ad. I don't want to change anything. Like, keep it as amateur as it is. Like literally, they said everything we needed to say. And so if you can think of a method like this, I'm not suggesting that you dance on the stage or, sing, but if you can go away from the standard, our names are such and such, and this is the presentation, and this is what we're planning to say, and this is what we said. So I think you will be, definitely in a better position to win the competition, or at least be remembered.
A couple of more things about Italy itself. If you take a taxi, at least 75% will not take a credit card, maybe even higher percentage, especially in some place like Macerata. Even in the big places like Florence and Rome, a lot of the taxis do not take credit cards. So if you take a taxi and you want to pay with credit card, make sure that you get that up front, that you meet somebody that takes a credit card. The other thing is restaurants. They don't typically open until like 7:30 at night. It's not like here where you can go 5 o'clock or even 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get food at a restaurant other than, say, a McDonald's or something like that. So be prepared that the Italians eat late, and be prepared to stay there a good while. It's a family thing to them. It's like you come, you're expected to stay there. You're not expected to come in, eat real quickly, and then leave real quickly. Around the touristy places, they're a little bit more, I guess you'd say, understanding of non-Italians that they maybe want to leave a little quicker. But in general, they take the evening meal as a time to just be enjoying things. We had a person come from Germany to here, and he was like all upset because he had only been sitting down 5 minutes, and the waitress came down and says, "Can I take your order?" And he's like, "I had just sat down with my friends. I was having a good conversation, and here comes this waitress wanting my order already." And he's like, "Well, calm down. This is the way America works,
One of the problems because of that we have, so it turns out they don't have breakfast. And so on campus, we will be feeding you. And so one of the problems we ran into, they say, like, what do you mean breakfast? Well, like you wake up, we want to eat. Why would you want to eat in the morning? Like, what do you mean? So at this time, ambassadors are literally going to the local stores trying to see what they can buy for you so we can offer, at the very least, like orange juice and cereal or something. But yes, they said, oh, no, like lunch, no problem, dinner, no problem, breakfast, yeah, we kind of don't do it.
And again, this depends on the restaurant, particularly like if you go to a smaller restaurant and there's 2 of you and there's 4 seats at the table, don't be surprised at all if they see another 2 people at the table. Because, many of the restaurants are small, so space is a premium, so they need to get as many people in as they can in there. So, hey, take the opportunity. Maybe you can get a friend. I got invited. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go, but I got invited when I was in South France many years ago. A couple from Holland sit down, and it was getting close to Christmas time. I got an invite to go to Holland to stay with them for Christmas. And I was going to do it, and then the company says, it's Christmas time. Here's your plane tickets to go home. And I just couldn't tell my parents, like, gosh, Mom and Dad, I really wanted to come home, but, oh, they gave me tickets. Okay, I guess I'll be home for Christmas.
Yeah. With the money, so I'm not sure how much money you want to take with you, probably a couple hundred at least. So we will more or less feed you and take care of you while you're there, but you will still need to get to Macerata. So you'll have to pay for that bus or shuttle from whichever airport you come from. And there will be, I believe, 2 times when you will have to eat on your own. I guess it will be $10, $20 maybe, depending on how much you want to eat. So you probably will need to have a couple hundred, maybe up to 500 just in case. And if you're changing the money, so if you are buying the money at the airport, they have that spread buy sell. So at the airport, it's usually like plus or minus 10, 15%. So on that amount, you will be losing, I don't know, like on every 100, you will be losing $10 or so. So if you do it proactively at the bank, the spread will be more like plus minus 3%. So you will save, I don't know, if you are buying, on every 100, you will save like $5, $10. And so it's not a huge difference, but if you want to bring $500, it may be a difference of about $50 in the fees that you pay to the bank. So from that perspective, maybe a good idea to buy them at the bank. Euros should be available on the spot. For some currencies, I know you have to order them like a few days in advance, but you might want to check with your bank just to be sure.
You can go through your bank, or you can also go through AAA if you're a member. They'll actually order currency for you. And I would say regardless of kind of what your plan of attack is for your money while you're overseas, you will want to call your bank and let them know you're traveling.
Yeah, that's important.
Because otherwise they may shut off your credit card thinking somebody stole it on an Italian vacation. So you're going to want to call them, and you're going to want to have several ways to access your funds. So have some cash, have an emergency credit card, a debit card, and keep them in separate places once you land. That way, if you drop your wallet while you're coming back from a night out, you aren't totally out of luck and actually have more money left over. And honestly, like using ATMs once you get there, as long as you know what the fees are that you can expect from your bank, that tends to be a pretty good way of getting money and getting a pretty good exchange rate, is just to withdraw money straight from an ATM.
And know your password.
Yes, know your
Yeah.
PIN number for your credit card, because in a lot of other countries you put in your PIN, your chip like we do now, and then you also enter in your PIN, even for credit.
I don't know what I have a.
It's
I have a PIN
typically
for
the
this.
same though. Is it not? It's not the same though. The PIN for
The
the
debit card. Yeah,
There is
I need to check.
I don't know if it's the same, but
I would double check.
in the US, you don't have to use a PIN with your credit card. But you go to other countries and you have to enter in a PIN.
Yeah, it may be a good idea to use credit cards every time you can, because if it's a debit card, things can happen. Credit card, you can always dispute. I'll tell you one day my China story, how I drank tea for a total of $550. And so that showed up on my receipt as leather goods. And so luckily it was a credit card, and the credit card company reimbursed me, and they said, yes, it seems like a fraud, but you never. So if it was a debit card, I could have lost literally everything, and then much harder to get that money back. So with a credit card, you sort of protect it a little bit.
And again, if you got multiple credit cards, keep them in different places. So if one gets stolen, not all of them are stolen.
And also something else you can do to kind of spread out your risk is once you get to Macerata, if you want to keep your passport like in your suitcase, like hidden in your suitcase, or even go up on like a little TSA certified suitcase lock, if you want to put your passport in your suitcase and carry around a copy, I would recommend that, because that way if you lose your wallet, if you drop something out of your pocket, it's your copy of your passport, it's not your actual passport.
Good idea.
Because that's a lot harder to replace. And also having several copies of your passport. I'll want one along with those forms back from you. I need a copy of your passport, so that way if something happens, we have a copy on file. But it's also good to have several copies with you.
They'll accept the copy.
They won't accept a copy like if you're coming back, but if you lose your passport, it will make it a lot easier for them to replace it. And I know we had one student that left their bag on the train with their passport in it, and that helped him get his bag back because he could pull out his passport copy and be like, see, I'm the same person.
I was watching actually some videos on theft protection, and so apparently some of the things you can do. There would be 25 recommendations, but the three that struck me. One, obviously now you can get those backpacks that open kind of from the inside, so when you're in the on the bus or something, it cannot be open, and then they have like metal wires in it, so it cannot be cut. So I suppose that's not a bad idea to get one of those. Another one, probably not that important in Italy, but if you go to a more dangerous place, or if you go to dangerous places in Italy, they say have a fake wallet with you. And so keep your like real wallet somewhere in one place and fake here. And so that can help two ways. One, if somebody's trying to steal your wallet, they probably will steal their own one if it's, and just put some old credit cards in it and like $5. But then if you're being mugged, you just basically take out the fake wallet, give it to them. In panic, they will not be checking your ID and checking if that's the real one. They'll just grab it and run. And so you'll have your real one, basically available to you. So that's seems like a good advice. And I always prefer, I know fanny packs are not cool, but at least it's something that allows me to keep it always, in the field of vision. So I always use them. Lately, I actually switched from fanny packs to like a fanny pack that you put on the belt. I'm not sure if it would work for women because fanny pack, it's still, like extra belt. And sometimes like in a restaurant, for example, you unzip it and then forget it, which I did once in Tampa.
I know.
So, but if it's on your belt, it's always with you. It's a little bit smaller. And so it's very hard to steal those because first of all, it's on the belt. So they cannot steal it without, cutting the belt, and getting in it also takes some time. So Italy, again, probably safe unless you're in a very tourist place.
Yeah, the biggest thing will be on trains and then when you're
Mhm.
in touristy areas. And you can get the kind of the passport holders, they can go underneath your clothes. So that way it's not just a fanny pack, it's something that actually goes underneath your clothes. And then if you don't have pockets, I would have a crossbody bag, or if you have a backpack, bring it around to the front if you're going to be sitting or standing anywhere for any amount of time, so that people aren't rifling through your pockets.
Mhm.
Even just like putting like a safety pin or like a little lock in between your zippers can be enough to deter somebody because they're looking for really easy
Yeah.
targets. And the harder of a target you make yourself, the better off you're going to be. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, my last trip to Italy, I didn't really have any problem with this, but in the past, I've had some problems that you have a bunch of kids coming up to you, distracting you, and somebody else trying to look through your luggage or something. So.
Mhm. Yeah, there are some standard schemes, to rob tourists. You can just look them up on the internet, like from Turkey Drop. That one I've like attempted several times on me. So and then there are all kinds of more complicated schemes, but yeah. So for example, if you find a wallet, I recommend not picking it up because chances are what will happen next is somebody else will come and say, "Oh, do you want to split the money?" And then before you know it, there will be 5 witnesses claiming that you stole that wallet and threatening the police, and you will have to pay to them. And, or you split the money, and let's say there are 500 euros in that wallet, you split the money, but then the owner shows up and says, "But they were $500," and you'll end up paying $500 back, even though you only have to pay, I got you 50. So there are all kinds of, so it's better to kind of stay away from. If it looks too good, probably it is not.
Italy is generally considered a safe place in the sense of somebody coming up to you with a gun and trying to mug you or something. The bigger problem is the petty theft, like pickpockets and things like that.
And I was going to say one more thing. In terms of like suitcases, I know you all will have to like bring things for your class and bring nicer clothes that might be a little bit bulkier, but pack as light as you can. Because one, you'll be able to keep an eye on your stuff so you don't have like 6 suitcases that you're trying to lug with you. And also there's a lot of cobblestones, there are stairs, there may be narrow hallways, so you may have to pick up your bag and walk with it for a bit. So if you don't feel comfortable like legit carrying your bag for about, I would say half a mile, like you've packed too much. So just kind of be strategic about what you're packing, bring things that you can wash easily in the sink and hang dry. That way, no one will care if they see you in the same blouse twice.
I've decided just to carry like a backpacker's backpack. That's all I'm
That's a good idea.
Because I feel like and then I don't have to look. Because cobblestones I heard were a nightmare.
They are.
Yeah, carry on.
Again, with those good shoes, you gotta have good shoes on.
And tennis shoes are popular in Italy. I heard. I think that's why everybody walks so much.
I heard Adidas is more popular in Europe than here. So if you have any Adidas, want to break them out. And then one other thing I was going to say, just kind of a more fun thing is if you want to throw in like an extra bag, like a little backpack or a duffel or some sort of drawstring bag, that's good to have in case you buy too many souvenirs and you need somewhere to put them on your way back, and that way you'll have an extra bag and you'll have to buy anything while you're
there. Any questions?
I have like an exposure related question. So I know we're doing our presentation, we have our handout. Are we actually going to be turning in a paper at the end of it?
No. So we will do only one pager. Strangely enough, up until 2016, when we had one of the symposia on a cruise ship, we would request that students write a report and then submit them.
Yeah.
The problem with that approach was that they would be submitted on the last day, and then the clients had literally until the end of the day to read them and select the winners. Mm-hmm. And that was very essentially almost unrealistic, to give it a good read. And then we have one of these symposia on a cruise ship, and turns out there is no place there to, like the internet is not, we didn't know if it would be reliable enough to handle the submissions. But then printing would be even more of a problem. Mm-hmm. And then it occurs to us, why not ask students just to print one page? So you can, even if it's $1 per page or something, you can print one page, and then you just do all presentations. And so this way, the company will not have to do anything other than just watch the presentations. It also allows you to exercise your presentation skills. And so that's how we will do it. So you will be able to write one or prepare one page handout, and then you will have our 10 minutes for presentation. We have 4 companies, and I think we have 8 teams per company, so it will be 8 presentations for each client. So it's not too bad, but still, it's going to be, good 2 hours that they have to watch, listen to the presentations. So, yeah, but that's how it will go.
Okay. One last question. I know that we're going to see, the companies that we're working for. Will there be an opportunity to go see some of the other companies that we want
It's a very, very, that's something I've been, like, I cannot decide which one I want to go to.
I want to see the winery, but
Yeah.
I'm not with that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind winery, but I really want to see how they make those shoes. I want to see how they make the coffee machines. Opera, I guess we will go there anyway. But again, it would be nice to go behind the scenes. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of mad that they decided to do it all concurrently and you only go to one, I think. So I'm not sure they're going to maybe, at least have 2. So you visit your company in the morning.
What I hear Lavon say, it's you'll go to your sponsor, and then there's another one. We're going another place, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
But it's not one of the others. It is, I understand it.
Yeah, because it's
Is that
almost.
what you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not like the challenge companies, but it's a different one.
I don't know. I almost wish there was only one that at least it would be FOMO, fear of missing out. So, you go to see how they make shoes, and then turns out at the coffee place, they, I don't know, gave you a bag of coffee for free, or, or a coffee grinder for free. Or you go to see the coffee, and turns out when you go to the shoe company, they give you like 5 pairs of Adidas for free.
You're making it worse. You're making it worse.
Yeah. And then, so that's the challenge. And so I wish it was some sort of a rotation, like 3 hours, and then move to the next one. So I don't know how it's going to be. So.
We could go on our own time like that.
Yeah.
I also have one more question. So my team had someone that forfeited the competition, and our coach became our extra teammate. I was wondering if we get like another coach for the team that we're in, or if he's kind of doing both parts.
I didn't hear about that one, but I know there was somebody who didn't get a visa and will not be able to attend. And so they did ask me what I think we should do. And we haven't decided yet, but I thought maybe we will keep that team as team of 3, I think, at this time. But then there will be probably another 1 or 2 teams that also somebody will not show up. Again, maybe didn't get a visa, missed a plane, and maybe we'll just merge some of those teams into one. So, but I'm not sure how we will handle it. With the coaches, again, I wouldn't worry too much about the team size and the resources. I guess, 3, 4, or 5, it's probably not that different. If anything, we'll have a smaller team, it will be easier to manage it. So with the coaches, same thing. So we actually had a meeting about that yesterday. So what exactly will the coaches do? And that's the first time we actually have dedicated coaches. Normally we would have more administrative support. And so the idea is that they will be your first place to go if you have questions. But then truly, they don't really know much more about the company than you do. So they've seen the same webinar, so I'm not sure that they will be able to give you more information. Then obviously they will be checking upon your progress, and if you have problems, they hopefully will help you. But again, I mean, if somebody's not responding, if it's you asking what's going on versus the coach, I'm not sure again if the coach, I suppose they are some sort of a figure of authority and they have more experience. All of them participated as students and then completed the coaching program. So they may know something that you don't know. But again, where they will really become useful once you have something. So as feedback, when you do a rehearsal, especially again, feedback, even though they may not necessarily be smarter than you are, just someone watching from the side and sharing their impressions, that's where it becomes really, really useful. And so I would recommend that you try to have something on paper as soon as possible so that they can start giving you early feedback. So that's where it helps a lot. So maybe also some general questions. Again, I'm not sure if they will know more about the company, but they may not know more about, for example, entry modes or about pricing because they've done it so many times. So they may definitely help you with some ideas or again, provide feedback on your ideas. So as far as the theory, that's where they will definitely know more. So, but then again, if you have to go to another coach, I suppose it's fine. So we decided that they sort of have each company, but then they can shuffle between it. So.
I did have one question about the Albert. I was talking online. I was in the middle of a thing and had to be out, but when we asked about filling up the seats, and that's generally the most problems of any businesses filling up the seats, his response was, no, we really don't have a need for that. So,
The operating in.
yeah, and so then what I was trying to wonder if I'm needing to target my marketing towards sponsors, are they looking for more people to fill up the seats, or they're looking for more people to become the €1,000 a year donors or whatever?
And honest, I was also confused when we had a meeting before the webinar. It seemed like the main goal was to attract as many people as possible. And they sort of mentioned Germany and Austria, not because that's where they want to see the tourists from, but that's where they think would be, the tourists might be coming from. It's relatively close, they value culture and stuff like that. And so the main goal was, or the main challenge was, how do you attract even more people? Because apparently, even if you need to add some shows or add an extra day, they can do it. So that's the way for them to sort of make money. But yes, in the presentation, so they almost said, oh, we don't have really problems. And it seems like all of those, or most of them are full anyway. I believe they said Friday and Saturday always full, and then the other days are, we have enough. So that's a good question. And again, I don't know the answer right away, unless, I don't know. So, but yeah, it would be definitely something, again, to ask in 2 weeks once we see them. And and maybe before that, again, send in an email and ask them.
That's the other question that we had, because there wasn't really a contact for the opera.
Well,
Andrea, I have Andrea.
I emailed everybody but the janitor.
Still no response?
No, I really did. I mean, they had like 7 to 10 people. One was in the marketing area, one was the general information. I emailed every one of them. And if they had a janitor listed, I would email him too. But I sent it all of them. I got one response that said, this is the one you need to ask. And I already asked that, the general one. So I sent it again as if like I was unaware.
It may be a good idea. Then I'm not sure which one of us ask Ernesto to give us one more time the contact list. Whom should we contact? Would it go to him, or would it go directly to someone at the company? As you may have noticed during the webinars, and we've done literally probably over 100 of them over these years, Italians were so far the most relaxed people. So they were definitely like, oh, come on, I mean, let's talk about this and that, and so forget about the business, tell me about your day. So I don't know, it may be also a little cultural that it seems like they take it very, very easy. So.
It was talking in circles, and then she would talk, and I was sitting there like this, waiting for the answer that I was looking for, and it never came.
Yeah, the one
Did
people.
you email them individually, or did you have like an email with 10 different people?
No, I did each one individually, like they were the only person I knew on purpose, so they would get my full attention. And then they didn't reply the first week, and I said again the second week. Yeah, all 7.
Maybe you copy Ernesto, is that his name?
Yeah.
On it to say, can you help me get a response?
Can I get an email from?
Well, it's probably best in any case, if in doubt, send an email to Global, I guess, Global Agriculture. But with Lisa, if you have the contacts, I guess it's nice, or maybe if not for some companies, or maybe check with Ernesto one more time. Where should the emails go if we do have questions?
For the opera, that was right there on, the name that I had, that Andrea was right there on the very first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For many of these companies, again, not only many students would not do much work before they actually have the company visit, but many companies, they don't really feel like it's a real thing until they actually see the students too. So, they get the approval. Sometimes it's the CEO who approves it, but then it's delegated to someone who may not really know what's going on. And so until we actually show up there, and then they get excited. And so that's when the real action begins. The first several years we did it, 2-3 years, we actually called it a 24-hour competition. So literally, there were no teams before we even show up. There was no tasks, so we only knew the company. And then the way it went is on day one, sometime, or basically, day one welcome, but like the real day one, day 2. So we'd have a meeting with the company, and then students had 24 hours until the next morning to develop the solution and submit it. And so it was kind of fun because they wouldn't sleep for 24 hours, and in some cases we literally had students. Still remember there was this guy, Willie Patrick Willoughby from Australia. And so he literally spent like 2 days traveling to, I think it was in Fort Lauderdale. And then he had the 24-hour competition. And so for him, it was like 3 days nonstop. So it was something that they still remember and sometimes even mention on Facebook when we, get to talk about it. But at the same time, it was not as developmental because, how much can you learn in those 24 hours and present something interesting to the company. But what I'm trying to say here is that it hasn't changed much as far as when the action happens. So now it's more like 72 or 4 days maybe of actual preparation. But again, most of it happens once you're on the, on the site with the company, get the information, they give you more information. So
we got general media or platforms already. So that's the main goal, right? We already know the general direction we're going to try to market and who and what age.
Yeah. So you can definitely prepare a lot of things already based on what you know, but some of those questions, again, hopefully we'll find a way to communicate with them and maybe even run a second round of webinars. So I don't know, maybe we should check with Ernesto, maybe closer to the event. But if not, don't be discouraged or upset. It just seems to be almost a normal thing. So
maybe they don't know what they're going to have an answer.
And by the way, that is very true. So one of the biggest challenges we have with any company, it wasn't so different this time either. So you would think, when we approach them and say, so what should be the challenge? They're like, what do you need? And you say, well, like, what do you want them to work on? We don't know, like we want to grow the business. And then, so what I have is I literally have a list of 10 questions that people always ask. Like, for example, so would you like them to maybe try to do some competition analysis? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And do you think maybe then they should think about, where you can sell your product in the market, or in your case, where they should attract? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then would you like them to think a little bit about the pricing? Oh, yeah. So basically, they wouldn't have any idea how to ask the question. And so we'll literally give them the list of questions, and then they say, okay, yeah, that's very good. So let's work on that. But sometimes even then, they're still not quite 100% sure. And, once you find the presentation, they will have like 5 new questions. And then vice versa, they will say, oh, this one I actually tried. So, we don't worry about that. The prices are set by the city of Monterrey, so we can't really change them. So whatever you said about the pricing policy, we can't really use it. Forgot about that. I'm making this up, but it does happen sometimes. So therefore, yes, they may literally not know what they really need. Not because they're Italians or anything. It's a normal teacher.
The wine seminar, they just told you too much about soul and it really wasn't information that was helping you, I don't think, but
more
maybe it did.
Philosophy and history of wine than the actual winery. And when you will be there, we will try wine, so let's come. So again, yes.
So for the trip, do we need just our passport, or do we need the gold star on the driver's license?
Well, if you have the passport, you don't need the driver's license.
Okay.
And if you have the driver's license with the gold star, it's not enough. They will not let you travel with that without it.
Is all we need?
Yeah. One question though, so Doug mentioned about international driver's license, so I wouldn't be able to rent a car with my regular driver's license?
No, but it's easy. You just go to the AAA office, you pay $20, and then you
Maybe I need to do it. It didn't even occur to me that I may need it before I go.
I would like to add to what Doug said. You look on their law enforcement side of Italy, they don't even recognize any American license.
Huh.
So you start over as a 15-year-old, even if you're 40, and you have to take, because the driving is, like you said, so unexpected. The rules are so different. They don't even acknowledge you had a license in your life before 4 years old, and you have to start out with a permit at 15 years old, at 40, and start going through the whole process to get your license. And if Italy's doing that, then it's probably not really safe. Yeah.
And because I drove there many times, but I would rent normally in Germany, and I don't think I had to get any different license. At least I can't remember. But if I needed to get it just in case, so I go to where the DMV or to AAA.
Look on the internet, get it to you.
Yeah, we don't really have that much time, so yeah. And do they give it to you on the spot, or?
Yeah, I just paid it. Like, mostly put it in, they took the picture.
Okay, good to know.
It was easy,
It's very good to know. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. That's all.
So one question for Jessica, I guess. When we arrived at the train station in Macerata, how are we going to get to the university?
So for that, they said ambassadors will literally be standing and waiting for you, since everybody will be arriving basically on the same day. So that part should be fine. One question though I have, so when you're traveling to Italy in general, are you going in groups or everybody's traveling on their own? Do you have anyone who's going as a group? Because I think so you will be flying what, to Rome or, yes, so from there, as I understand, there is a shuttle and apparently it goes like every 15 or 20 or half an hour. So it shouldn't be a problem, but it's still maybe more fun to travel together. And so I know what people did. I'm not sure they're doing this, but we definitely should suggest. I remember in Miami, for example, there were 2 airports. So some people went to Fort Lauderdale and others went to Miami International. And so they literally agreed that, let's just meet at the information. And so since we had so many arriving more or less on the same day, you just go there and there are like 5 people already waiting. Or if there is nobody, you wait for 10 minutes and there will be 5 people waiting. Either airport. And then they just literally split the Uber or took the train. But it was much more interesting to do it that way. And I suppose this time, even though we have Rome and Ancona, and some people go to Milan, some people so even if you have 4 airports, it seems like there will be at least a couple dozen people going to each of those, probably within like 10-hour windows. So even if you have to wait for an hour for your next, arrival, it still may be a good idea. It may be cheaper, it may be safer, it may be more fun. So you seem like, mature enough people to travel on your own, but again, may not be such a bad idea.
Ms. Foster, could at TRENITALIA, you can go ahead and order your train tickets now. And then about halfway down, you got to switch over from a train to like a subway, and then tells you the numbers and then go ahead and do all that for you.
Then for that, I wondered, those of you who did research, maybe if you can literally like maybe provide some share information, maybe in the Facebook closed group or something. I'm not sure if we want to, or maybe put it on paper and then have like a document.
If you haven't made your train reservations already, you might want to go on tonight to try and do it because this is the busy season. And I know some of the trains that I wanted to take were already booked up.
Yeah. But even just how to do it, again, I'm planning to drive, so I guess trains are not that important. But still, would be nice to do it, to know how to do it if needed. For me, for example, the challenge is I'm planning to visit a couple of cities on the way in and out. And they say that if you want to, for example, go to Coliseum, you have to, book your tickets in advance. Because if you wanted to get it on the gate, you can spend half a day just waiting in line. So same thing with some places in Venice and some places in Florence. If you want to go Vatican, same thing. So they said if you want to do like the Vatican Museum, again, you can buy the tickets on the spot, but you can literally spend half a day just waiting for the ticket.
And there's like jump the line tickets.
Mm-hmm. I didn't do my research, but it seems like it's something that we need to explore.
One thing I can recommend, if you go online and you just search ISIC, ISIC, it's an International Student Identification Card, and it might be helpful to some of you. It's completely optional. We used to require it, but you can make your own decisions as to whether or not it would be useful. But you pay like $20 or $25, and it gives you discounts to things like Eurostar, right, to museums, to restaurants. And if you're going to be doing a lot of the more touristy things, it might be a good investment for you. And they also have options. I didn't mention this when I was talking about the insurance, but that health insurance only covers your body. It doesn't cover your stuff. It doesn't cover your travel. So it might be a good idea to look into either ISIC or maybe your homeowner's insurance with your plane ticket, your ticket insurance, just to make sure that you have a little bit of coverage just in case you get delayed or your luggage gets lost or something like that. But ISIC can have a little bit of coverage that you can have as well.
Yeah, we have the liability insurance for the event, but that's mainly, if you break something, like as Doug said, if you throw the chair in the window, then at least we have an insurance that it will allow us not to pay out of our own pocket. But yes, anything else,
Do the dorms lock? Probably really.
That's a good question. I don't know. I suppose they do.
I would hope so.
There's no air conditioning in them.
Yeah, that may be.
The dorms are on campus, right? On the campus.
You know what? I honestly have no idea what the campus will look like. So I know what American campuses look like. So, but there, I've seen some, like for example, in Colombia, where you literally have guards with, like machine guns at the entrance, like completely gated, and it looks more like from the outside almost looks like a prison. From the inside, a beautiful, nice, gated compound. And then you've seen some, like in the United States, anyone can walk on campus, but I guess they cannot get in the dormitories. The Italian style, I have no idea. So.
Yes, Ernesto.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a webinar on that.
Picture, yeah, put some pictures out there.
Yeah.
But locking, I would think, it's important for safety.
I'm not a big guy, but I remember that in Europe, in the hotels, the beds are much smaller, especially if you're in a cheaper hotel. And so, not that I'm tall, but somehow I kind of like the space. And then the blankets, I'm used to covering, like king size blankets, so I literally like a cocoon, and there I would have something, that looks more like a towel. And I remember that I couldn't get a good night's sleep just because it's not, something I'm used to. So, yeah.
And you should also check and see if you need to share showers, because if you do, you want to bring like some sort of shower shoes.
That's another one, yeah.
So are they like community style showers or are they in the dorm?
No idea.
We need all that information.
Yeah, so we need to check.
So good questions to ask.
Yeah.
So for non-UNCG students, what can they do? Let's say your school's not really sponsoring you because they're not maybe paying, or students could also have graduated and so they're really on their own
For the insurance,
for insurance.
it's a very good question. First, can they buy it through your organization just for, because if not, I'm sure there are many
Are
companies that offer.
you enrolled in the class?
Well, I'm thinking for other students outside of UNCG. So you'll have students from different universities in the US and then externally.
Or non-students, because we do have some attendees who already graduated, or for example, graduated this spring, so no longer students.
So are they coming on the trip or are they enrolled? in the
Well, for
course?
example, in fact, a very good example is Simona De Loca. So he is one of our administrative assistants. He's been with us for many years, but the problem is he graduated in May as an undergraduate student, and he comes back as an MBA student, but that is not active until sometime in, so he's literally now between the programs. And so technically he's not a student if he's not on paper for these couple of months. And so I wonder, again, he's an Italian and he's in Italy, so he should be fine, but I'm sure there are people like him.
Yeah, just think about other students, like somebody from Georgia maybe,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
break their leg or something happens. Is there a way that we could get
Well,
a supplemental policy?
I wonder if our regular insurance actually covers that, at least the medical stuff, like the Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever.
Like a student.
You'd have to look into it. A lot of times it won't cover international. That's the biggest thing. This is like a specifically international insurance. Yeah,
It's
and the
definitely worthwhile
reason I'm
getting.
hesitating is because the situation's a little bit different, because usually we have all the students enrolled in like one course. And so by virtue of being in the course, they're already a UNCG student, and therefore they're already under a purview. But I can check on that.
Yeah.
And about how many students do you think would it be, like the whole X Culture conference, or like?
No, I'm thinking that out of 150, probably there will be at least 20 who are not students anymore. And
Okay.
then,
But who were formerly of UNCG?
No, that's in general.
Okay.
But yeah, looking at UNCG, so yes, we have about 10, 11 from UNCG, and then everybody else is from somewhere else. And I kind of suspect that they, on the one hand, would also benefit from having the insurance. Usually it's not expensive because it's only for a few days. So even if it's, let's say, 5 or even 10 days at $5 a day, it's still worthwhile getting it.
Yeah, and I think you can get it independently. It's
yeah.
just about double the price.
It's
That's like
definitely possible to get it, but yeah, I wonder if you
Yeah.
can recommend somebody.
Maybe
Or,
like a AAA.
Yeah, so you can look at GeoBlue, or there's also the ISIC that I mentioned. They have a medical insurance card as well, so you can get medical insurance and trip insurance through them. Some universities do elect to use ISIC